New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Thank you, Sunny. Is our other intro going to run, do you think, or is it being recalcitrant?
From the New Thought Media Network, this is the Conscious Reality Show with your host, Sarah Stevens-Nichols, where conversation plus intention reveals a new reality. Every week, Sarah and her guests will discuss what they know and what they don't. Experimenting in front of everyone with what else is possible. I'm Sunny Childs, and here is your host, Sarah Stevens-Nichols.
And here I am again. Thank you, Sunny. That was a wonderful morning and wonderful start to our show, where anything truly is possible. And I am thrilled to be here today because we are going to do something different. But before we get into that something different, well, I'll tell you, it's going to be a live session between two people who have only just met. And that is very exciting. In my blog and my newsletter today, I talk about Brene Brown educated me fairly recently that resentment is not in the anger family, it is in the envy family. And that a lot of what causes me to resent someone is envying them. And that seems impossible. But my best example of that is when in a community meeting, I basically told another community member that if he wasn't going to be able to fulfill his responsibilities to the community, he needed to leave it. And he was not thrilled with that. And so he called for mediation between the two of us, and another community member did that. And as I was doing my prep work for that, for how to get honest about what was going on and seeing what I resented in this community member, what I saw and what I said to him was that I had never, ever let myself off the hook. I had never let myself not fulfill my community responsibilities, no matter if my kid was sick, or if I was sick, or if I had an incredibly busy month. I just did it anyway. I sucked it up and did it, and often to my detriment. And so it was impossible for me to let someone else off the hook since I wasn't letting myself off the hook, right? And so I envied the fact that he was able to hold a boundary and say, I can't do this right now. I can't fulfill this responsibility because I am overwhelmed. And I judged what was overwhelming him as insufficient because I had put so much there was because I was always whelmed and not overwhelmed in my mind. So anyway, that is my word of wisdom for the day, that if you are resenting someone, consider what do you envy about this person? There is a quote from Brene Brown. Envy drives resentment. I'm not mad because you're resting. I'm mad because, unlike you, I'm going to pretend that I don't need to. And that's from Brene Brown's Atlas of the Heart, which is an amazing book where she actually, I think our producer Sunny Childs gave me this book for a birthday present one time. And she goes through every single emotion that you can think of that we experience and shows both what her experience is with that and what the research is behind that emotion. And this is what she learned. She didn't know, and neither did I. All right, let's get into it. I bet you anything that our session guest, Evan Unruh, knows something about envy and resentment, because I met him at a workshop where he was teaching me about more than I already knew about emotional intelligence. And we're very lucky to have Evan here. He is an excellent workshop leader. He knows about trauma-informed he's trauma-informed, and he knows about trauma-informed addiction and recovery expertise. And beyond that, he's also an award-winning commercial director. And I will tell you, just to be very geeky, even though it has nothing to do with any of this, that I was excited when I first learned his last name, because unlike most people in California now, I remember that Jesse Unruh was one of the leaders in civil rights legislation in the entire country. And he was the former Speaker of the Assembly in California, and he wrote the Unruh Civil Rights Act, which became a model for the federal civil rights legislation. And I have actually litigated cases under this Unruh Civil Rights Act and also amended it through work in the California legislature. So I was excited, and it turns out Evan is somewhat related. I don't know if he even knows how, to Jesse Unruh, but let's bring on Evan to actually do a session here. Welcome, Evan. I'm so glad you're here, and let you say a few words. I talked for a really long time. You're laughing at my little.
No, that's great. It's like I'm a distant relative of his, and so few people today know about that. And what I often say about my name is it actually comes from a German word, Unruh, which means unruly. And that's one of the names. I have a company that's named that, because of that.
That's awesome.
It's so interesting to hear that. I think there's probably been a handful of people through the years who know that connection. So it makes perfect sense that you do. And
yeah.
So anyway, so I'm really glad to be here. Thanks so much for having me. And I just want to say to you, thank you for creating a show like this, where people can focus on becoming conscious, because for me, that's kind of the whole ball game. So I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to work with somebody that I've essentially never met before, and just to sit down and see if we can get down into a heart and healing space.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, so we will, in a minute, we'll bring on Gail, your client for today. And Gail has graciously allowed us she's going to make herself vulnerable on the World Wide Web here, and allow herself to have a session with you and to be coached by you today. And let me just, since when I do sessions, I do a little opening prayer, and I usually do an opening prayer at the beginning of this show. Let me just do a little prayer.
Great.
Sunny, why don't you go ahead and bring Gail on, and I will just pray them both up and hand it over to Evan. Taking a breath and just relaxing into the unlimited power of the One, the only thing happening here. One heart, one mind, one infinite presence, all knowing, all loving, all redeeming, all delivering. beyond time, beyond space, beyond expectation, beyond limitation, beyond lack, and beyond precedent, beyond the beyond. And I know that this unlimited power of the one is living out its perfect life as me today. And as I know that for me, I know that for Evan and for Gail and for our producer, Sunny, and for everyone watching the show and listening to the show. I know that each of us is a spiritual being having a spiritual experience in a human body on a human plane with all the power and the promise and the purpose of the one mind at our disposal and all the clarity, focus, ease, and grace. And so I speak my word with and for particularly Evan and Gail today, knowing that they come together here for a reason. And that there is only one speaking. Spirit speaking as Evan, spirit speaking and listening as Gail, spirit speaking and listening as Evan and as me and as Sunny and as everyone listening. And that whatever needs to be said is said, whatever needs to be heard is heard, whatever needs to be lifted up is lifted up, and whatever needs to be laid down is laid down. And I am grateful. I'm grateful, grateful, grateful for what else is possible here and how does it get even better than this. And so I let go with great gratitude and let God, and so it is. Amen. All right, I will exit the stage and let you.
Thank you so much for that prayer. I was so on board with all of that. You're probably not surprised to learn. And hello, Gail.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah.
Great.
Well, Gail and I met just briefly for like a second just to say hello right before we came on. But we're really just basically meeting for the first time. We talked about her little painting that she did behind her there, which is quite adorable. So, so we just want to sort of take our time. We're not in any kind of rush, Gail, because it's like, here we are and we can't see them, but I guess people are watching, right? But really it's just me and you. And we just want to sort of take our time and just start to, breathe and relax a little bit. And as Sarah said in her prayer, whatever needs to come out, I think will come out. But I'm curious, why you wanted a session or sort of what brings you here.
My turn to talk?
Please, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's all about you, Gail. So by all means.
What brought me here is that the CCSL retired minister from the Falls Church, Virginia, told me about this via email, and I thought, wow, that's what I want.
You want what specific? You want a session, or you want to connect to your real self, or what is it that you want?
Everything.
You want everything. Well, that makes you just like everybody else. And I think Sarah mentioned something to me about you've had a couple of careers and you're looking at sort of creating a third career. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And so is that what you want to focus on today? Because I'm willing to go wherever you want to go. I'm sorry, I lost you, Gail. I couldn't hear that last thing. I'm not hearing you. I'm not sure what it is. So we'll wait for a second. You're not muted or unmuted or? This is the 21st century. So we're used to these sorts of things when we're having a Zoom and all of that. I could hear you fine when we started, and now I'm not hearing you when you talk. Oh, I think you might be there. Why don't you say testing 1, 2, 3 or hello? Oh, I heard you for a second, but very quietly. Yeah, you're there, and it's very faint. So I'm not sure if it's on this end or not. I don't know if Sunny's going to work some magic back there or not. Well, this is very exciting that we have this very real kind of hiccup. You're doing fine, Gail. You're over there talking, and I can hear that you're not muted because I can hear you. I'm not sure if it's the volume on your end or if it's something that's happening here. Oh, that sounded good. Say something again, Gail.
Hello.
Okay, now I can hear you a little bit more, so we're headed in the right direction.
Hey, I'm going to add myself to the stage just a second. Can you
Hi,
hear
Sunny.
me, Evan?
I can hear you
You
fine.
can hear me clearly then. Okay, so Gail, I think it's your headphones, whatever you're using for a headphone, may have popped off. Do you have headphones on? You don't have headphones on, and you don't have any. Your sound is not going to us. I can read your lips, but we cannot hear you. You may want to.
Let me check the volume on my.
Oh, there we go. There we go. It sounds like
Okay.
it's the volume on your phone. Yeah. So you turned it all the way up?
Yes.
Okay, great. I think that did it.
And I also think that there's something. It may be we need to do this also with when people have a hard when it's glitching like that. It may be that we need to hear Gail but not see her, and so that might be an option if she can.
Great.
Let's see if I can turn her camera off.
Let's try it, because I think let's try it first with her picture, because I think the volume just might have gotten turned down, because I could hear her fine in the
Great.
beginning. So if it starts to become a problem,
Great.
then we'll just turn her picture off and just hear her. We can do the work fine, even just the voices. Okay, Gail, I think we're back. So,
Okay.
hey, there you are. Okay, good.
Hi.
What a wonderful problem to have. All right. So, all right. So we were talking about your careers and a
Yeah.
new career that you're interested. So tell me, what did you do before, and what are you interested in doing?
Okay, my first career was as a statistician for the Centers for Disease Control. I designed national health surveys and analyzed data, published reports on everything from children to dead people.
Wow, that makes you that's a very cool job.
Yeah, it was wonderful. And
Yeah.
then my second career, I retired early so I could be home with my children, younger children, and I became a professional artist, painter, oil painter.
Okay.
And then about 3 years ago, I had a brain injury that I forgot how to paint.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. And so,
Yes.
I mean, I don't want to dig into this too deeply, but tell me about the nature of your brain injury.
Well,
if you want to talk about that.
It's pretty complicated. I had double pneumonia. I was in the hospital. I was in a coma. I was intubated, and I had sepsis. And my brain grew encephalitis, I think it's called.
Wow.
Which gave me incredible hallucinations.
Oh, great. At least there's a side benefit, right?
Yeah, I spent an afternoon with Brad Pitt and
Okay.
another afternoon with Billy Joel.
Great. Okay, and so then something about that shut down a part of your brain that gave you access to be able to paint, and so that's kind of no longer available.
Well, it could come back, but it hasn't for like almost 3 years. So
Yeah.
I'm fine with that, and I'm moving on.
Okay, great. And so now you're looking for a new career. Do you know what you want that career to be, or are you just kind of a place where you're not sure?
I have so many things that I'm interested in. I can't pick one right now.
Okay, so you're having trouble picking one.
Well,
tell me,
I don't even know if any of the ones I'm thinking about are the one I am destined or God wants me to do.
Yeah, it's so interesting too. And I might sort of make little comments as we go, but it's just like, my experience is that, each of us is sort of on a journey, and the things that happen are so perfect to sort of change us, in a way that the universe wants us to be, to access more of who we really are. Right. So you're sort of going in a new direction. Right. And
yes.
And I would say, just a personal aside to you is, I wouldn't worry too much about getting it right. I have a feeling the universe will put you on the right track. But tell me some of the things that you're interested in moving toward.
Well, you saw the little drawings that I've done.
Yeah.
I enjoy that a lot. I very into philosophy, comparative religions.
Okay.
Just playing, having fun, humor. I love humor.
Okay. I'm against humor completely. I'm kidding. That's a joke. Okay, great. So now let me ask you this. What's your sort of, in terms of going to the next step, what's your kind of fear level? Like, do you have any anxiety about it? Or are you kind of worried about, will you find the right thing, or will I not find the right thing? Or just, are you having any fears about it at all?
Well, I'm listening to my body, and I'm having a little bit of anxiety just talking to you. But
I'm very threatening. Yeah.
I see that. But in terms of, I don't really, I'm not aware
Okay.
of any.
And have you been moving toward, so is the issue like, I'm not sure what to do, or is the issue, I'm trying different things and nothing's feeling right?
On the contrary, everything sort of feels right.
Okay.
Yeah. I haven't just recently been as much into the philosophy or comparative religions, although I'm with that anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So here's I think we should start. So there's always the sort of question of, because when I sort of work with somebody, what I'm always trying to do is to help them to access the deep wisdom that's already in them.
Okay.
And then I'm also always trying to help them see and remove any blocks, because wherever something's not happening in life, wherever there's not that flow, and I'm sure there's parts of your life where there's flow and things are moving, wherever they're not moving, there's some kind of block. And usually that block has to do a lot with the sort of past and sort of reliving that, sort of again and again. So we look for that. But then also, we also want to, when there's a desire to do something, and clearly for you, there is a desire here, the desire to express yourself in a new way out in the world, and probably going beyond just sort of playing with a bunch of things. It sounds like you want to do something and latch onto something that's kind of meaningful. Is that fair to say?
Oh, yeah, that's very fair.
So let's start with that, and then we'll see what comes up, if anything comes up in resistance to that. So talking about, just to start to dig. So usually, one of the reasons things don't happen, or don't express themselves, is because we haven't yet connected to the deepest aspect of why we want them and what the truth is. And so we're sort of here, kind of on this level of just vaguely wanting it. Like, there's a lot of people who want financial security, but financial security, this desire, is kind of more like about safety, and it's kind of on the level of ego, right? So as you're studying philosophy, I'm sure there's this getting past ego down to something truer, right? As you're sort of dealing with that.
Yeah.
Right. So we want to take this desire to have a new career, and we want to see what that's really like in your sort of soul or spirit. We want to see what that's really made of. So let's say you find this thing and you're doing it. What kind of feeling would that give you? How do you think you would feel if you found this career and you were expressing it in the world?
I think that I would almost disappear.
You would disappear.
Yeah.
So in other words, you would sort of lose yourself in a way, or lose
that's what I mean.
Yeah. And so, and does that mean that you would be sort of connecting to something higher, or something truer? I don't want to put words in your mouth, so I'm just asking to sort of kind of get down to
right. Both.
Yeah. Okay. So you're connecting to something truer, and your sort of petty concerns are disappearing. You're sort of losing those.
Yes.
And there's this larger experience. Okay.
Yes.
And so why do you want that? Why do you want to lose your petty concerns, and why do you want to connect to something higher? Why is that important to
the
you?
word flow comes to mind.
Okay.
When I oil painted, I would go into what is described as flow.
A flow state. Yeah. Okay, great.
I would just lose awareness of time, or whether I was hungry or anything.
Okay.
I was just with it.
Okay, great. And so you kind of want to discover a new way to connect to this flow state, and not just by yourself, but in the world, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And so what about that flow state? What would that give you if you had that? If you had that consistently, if that was showing up in your life, what would being connected to that flow state give you?
Well, I can't think of what I think would give me.
Yeah.
In my ego self.
But
Is that what you're talking-
even from a higher self standpoint, what would that flow give you?
Well, I think I was praying before we got on the show, and what I was saying is that in my prayer is that I wanted to become a reflection of God's love and brightness. Yeah.
Brightness. Okay. So would it be fair to say that, because I've seen this a lot when I'm sort of, like there's something in you that wants to sort of shine. Is that fair to say? Not even from an ego place, but from like a real true sort of soul and spirit place.
Well, yeah, but you're looking at me. Don't I already shine?
Well, you do, right? You do, right? But like you said, we're sort of working past the things, the small and petty things in the ego, which restrict us, which we'll get to. But okay. But so even as we're touching that, even as we're starting to go into this shining, try to notice where that sort of sense of flow and that shining kind of is in your body. If you sort of had to locate that in your body, where do you feel that energy is kind of living right now?
The only thing I can think of is my breath. It's in my breath.
It's in your breath. Okay. And so that energy, that flow energy, because as we're talking about it, we're sort of touching it. You can kind of feel it, can't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And does it feel good?
Yes.
Okay. And so it's sort of in your breath. It feels good. And I would imagine it feels somewhat connected.
Yes.
And you don't want to just shine, do you? And just sort of like be in your house shining. My guess is you want to shine and have it connect to or affect others. Is that fair to say?
Well, I hope it's not from an ego standpoint that
Not
I
at
want
all.
to shine before others,
No.
but yes, I do want to shine before others.
You bring up a good point, right? The ego wants to be seen and wants to be recognized, but that ego, when it wants to be seen and recognized, it's coming from pain, right? It feels like this hurt, it feels this smallness, and it's trying to get out of it. So it's trying to get love would be one way to say it. But when we're talking about this flow state and we're talking about this shining, notice that it's a giving, not a wanting or a receiving. Can you feel that when you touch this energy?
I'm not sure.
Okay, so what I'd love to do, right? Because so much of the truth of what's happening inside of us is in the body, right? So as much as we can slow down and we can start to tune in and start to touch, what's happening, right? So you said that flow state is sort of connected to your breath, yeah? Or you feel, when you feel that good feeling of flow and connectedness, that's happening kind of around in this area here.
Yeah. But the tightness in my chest is dissipated.
Okay, good. That's great. So we want to look at the physiology. We want to notice how when we connect to this energy, how it starts to change the body, right? So the constriction in your chest, and that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the egoic. Our body is essentially a survival mechanism. So it's always trying to survive. And as you're connecting to this true light that you are, and by the way, I could see your light when we were beginning, but even now as we're touching it, I feel it and see it even more. And that's what's relaxing your body, right?
Can I say, well, maybe
Please.
that I sort of interpret that the light shines when I'm with people, not necessarily on media.
Oh, right. Yes. And sometimes it's a little easier when you're not on the world stage to sort of connect and have that light shine, right?
Okay.
And that's really what we're talking about here. We're talking about a new way for you to have that light shine, right? A new way for you to express that flow and that light in the world. And so come back here to the chest and let's just stay with that energy. And as you sit with that, I want you to sort of experience that sort of growing and opening a little bit more. And would you say that this sort of lightness, this brightness, whatever you want to call it, this positive energy that we're touching is sort of starting to touch your heart area? Is it starting to open?
Yes. Oh, yeah. I can feel it. Yeah.
Right. And how does that feel?
It feels like a gentle pressure, a warmth.
Okay. And that feels good?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things to do and is what we're what we're doing is we're connecting more and more to the truth of you. And the more you connect to the truth of you, the more that it will find ways to express that light in the world. So a lot of times people are looking for a sort of solution out here, and they're kind of using the ego to do it. What I've sort of discovered is the more that I sit with the energy of the truth of who I am, the more it shows me what to do. So what I would recommend to you, and we're gonna pause this in just a little bit, and we're gonna go in another direction for a little bit. But what I would recommend to you is, by touching this every day and just spending 5 minutes a day recreating this, touching this, and I want to go a little bit further before we shift gears, because I want you to notice that there's a fullness to this, right? In other words, this feeling feels nourishing, doesn't it?
Yeah, I feel it from my head down and way into my chest. Yeah.
Right. That's wonderful, right? So it's like it's here, and every day, the more that you connect to this, the more it grows. The more time and attention, the more you follow love, the more love gets created. The more that you follow your essence, the more it starts to express itself in the world. And we all have these protection mechanisms and things that cover up all that light. Like somewhere in the Bible, it says, don't hide your light under a bushel. I'm pretty sure what this means, right? So as you notice, just we spent time and attention and energy, and there's more of that glow and more of that sort of power sort of emanating. I certainly can feel it. It feels a little to me like a sort of sunrise, like a very beautiful sunrise. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And one thing I think it's important to notice, that one, it's a place of fullness. And that it wants to share, it's like that energy wants to share itself with others. So can you kind of feel that as you're touching it, that it doesn't want to just stay private and quiet and closed. It wants to open up to the world around you.
Well, what is coming up a lot right now is that I want to take notes.
Okay.
Yeah, when I'm in my spiritual community, I take notes. But right now,
well,
I'm using both hands.
Fortunately for you, Gail, this entire thing is being recorded and will live on the web forever. And speaking of which, it is time to acknowledge our sponsor.
That's a great time to stop, because we're going to shift gears. So great.
Okay.
New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Hey.
Hi.
Sarah, is there anything else to say, or should we keep going, or is there anything you want to interject? Keep going?
Yeah, you can keep going.
All right, let's keep going.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Okay, Gail. So you're doing great, right? It's like there's a little bit of pressure here, and you're doing wonderful with it. So what we want to do is we want to shift gears, right? So what we did is we kind of went into the positive, and we touched sort of who you really are. And it sounds like you spend a fair amount of time doing that, and doing, there's a word that I really like when it comes to sort of what is someone's spiritual teaching and what is a path to follow. And that's resonance, right? So a lot of energy is, frequency and vibration. And the more you tune into this, the more it will sort of illuminate the path for you. Right.
Yes.
And when we were working there, what I noticed, and what you mentioned there was this sort of tightness in your chest that relaxed.
Yes.
So we want to work with that energy a little bit too, right? Because one of the dangers, one of the things that's difficult for human beings, in my experience, is we move away from pain. Something that hurts, and so we try to get away from it. And what's challenging about that is you can't just shut off pain exclusively. When you shut off, you just kind of shut off everything. And so we tend to get numb. you know, and
Right.
there's this notion of sort of toxic positivity, right? You know, like that people have, or that can get stuck into, where it's like they don't want to see anything bad or negative. And what I've learned, and I have a long background in the 12 steps, is that when I welcome in that energy of fear, of constriction, when I allow that to be, because it's already there, when I allow that to be, that starts to dissipate as well. And that starts to, it's a block that starts to clear, and then that energy can flow more deeply. So let's spend a little time looking at what, right? Because it took you a second to open up to touch that energy. So there was something that was closing you down to begin with. So we just want to look at, if there's that light to shine, why are you not always having that light? What is it that's saying it's not safe to shine this light all the time? Or what is that constriction that was there? So now, instead of sort of focusing on the positive, and is it possible to adjust the screen so I can see Gail a little bit bigger? Because I want to sort of there. You're fine over there, Gail. Okay. So let's start with that place. You said it was, I think you were kind of pointing here in your chest.
Yes.
Right? And let's just tune into that energy. Now, this is going to be a different energy than the other one. The other one was very bright and expansive and lovely, and it felt good. This one feels a little bit different, you know, kind of in your body. What does it feel like just by sort of touching that energy, that constricted part? What does it feel like in your body?
Oh, I feel the energy going all the way to my toes.
Which energy?
Whatever energy there that is. It was stopping at my chest, and now
and now it's not.
Now it's going all the way to my toes.
Okay, I'm just trying to get clear. Is that that positive energy that we opened up that's going all the way to your toes?
Yeah.
Okay, so right now, so what I want you to do right now is I want you to sort of just scan your body, right, from your toes. Let's just kind of start with your toes and come up. And usually there's not a lot of emotional dysregulation in someone's toes. Usually people's toes are pretty grounded and pretty safe, serene. And just start to kind of come up the body, come up into your calves, come up into your knees, come up into your thighs, right? All the way up into your bum, into your hips, and just start to sort of scan your body and see where there's any tension at all. I know we have this positive feeling, and we're going to bring that back, but we're looking for anything that's not that. We're looking for anything that has any kind of resistance or tightness or fear. We want to sort of bring that up and call it, because if we're not shining all the time, then there's a block somewhere. And so we want to start to learn also how to pay attention to that too. So
Yes.
are you aware of anything in your body that is sort of resisting this sort of light, or fighting, or feels neglected? Anything at all that feels not in alignment with that beautiful?
Yeah, I'm feeling a lot of stuff. I'm
Like
feeling
what?
pressure in my head on the left side.
Okay.
And then I'm feeling discomfort in my hands because I'm holding this iPad.
Oh, sure.
And I'm feeling a little discomfort in my back because I can't wiggle around so much.
Okay. Let's start with that pressure in your head, right? Let's just tune into that energy for a little bit. And what does that feel like? You said, is it kind of behind your eye? Did you say something like that?
It seemed to be behind my eye, yeah.
Okay. And what does it feel like? You said it feels like pressure?
Oh, now it's sort of moving around.
Right, which is not unusual.
So
Where's it going to?
I feel it strongly behind my left ear and somewhat on my right ear behind.
Okay. Now just, pay attention to it. If it moves around, we don't want to sort of lose it. Let's just stay with that energy. Okay. And if you just did the best you can sort of describe it. Is it pain? Is it tension? Is it weight? Is it electricity? What does it feel like physically?
except for my back and my hand, it just feels like a little pressure.
Okay. And do you have any idea what that pressure is?
Oh, being human.
Being human.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Can I interject?
Okay.
I had a guru
Please.
40 years ago who went through a root canal without any anesthetic because
Okay.
he was in touch with what you're saying, and it's harder for me to get in touch with that.
Okay. So let's try this. Let's come at this from a different angle, right? Right. Because we could try to chase down that pain, but that might take a little bit while to see what it is, to see if it's resistance at all. We don't know. But so what I want you to do is I want you to picture yourself on this big stage, right? With everybody watching, the world is watching, all the cameras are trained on you. And here you are with this bright light shining, right? That from your chest that we talked about before, right? And you're sort of sharing this light with the world. What comes up for you? Is there any resistance that comes up for you?
Yeah,
Any
I'm
fear?
I'm feeling a real pressure. I guess it's in my chest around
Okay.
my heart.
Okay. Right. And so it's and what does it feel like? Is it there's a constriction there? There's a tightening? What does it feel like physically?
It feels like a pressure, like a
Okay, good.
not a painful pressure, but a pressure.
Okay. All right. And I don't want to lead it too much. So that's good. So when this notion of shining on this big world stage came up, all of a sudden there was this thing that all of a sudden felt under pressure. If you had to put a name to that in terms of an emotion, if it was mad, sad, glad, or afraid, which would you choose?
Fear.
Fear. Okay, good. Okay, so good. That's the energy we're looking for, right? This is the energy that has you not shining as much as you possibly could, right? This is the energy that's sort of, and this is true for all of us out there. We have this beautiful energy and we can all get in touch with it. And most of the time we're not in touch with it. We're very in touch with our ego and the things that the ego wants. But this larger energy that you have, that we all have, that wants to share and wants to give and wants to express itself, isn't doing that all the time. And it's because there are things that are holding it back. And so there's some fear here to be that shiny person. And that's what we want to start to sit with, right? Because in some ways, this fear is winning, right? Because you're not getting to express, the more that we sit with both sides of this equation and clear that energy, the more whatever it is you're going to do next will start to emerge. And we can touch base after this to sort of see how that's going and to see what's emerging with you creatively or, work-wise, right? We only have this short time now, but let's spend a little time with this thing that doesn't feel safe, that feels scared of you shining in that way. So the thing that we want to do is we want to take a lot of care and give this piece, this part, it's a sort of wounded part of your past, right? Somewhere back there in your childhood was the notion that it wasn't okay to be everything that you could be.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You say, oh yeah. So tell me about that. Why do you say, oh yeah, so readily?
Oh, well, I was brought up in a very strict Baptist home.
Okay.
My mother was never ever stopped. She died at 87. Never ever stopped trying to convert me.
Okay.
And I always sort of interpreted that as I was not good enough.
Okay. Okay, good. So now we're starting to get to it, right? So here's a message that's the opposite, right? And it's a very deeply ingrained message of I'm not good enough. And this is the opposite of that light, right? And so this I'm not good enough is a very strong thing. And as you can see, it's been around for decades and decades and decades. So contrary, what most people do when there's a feeling like this is they try to get away from it. But what we want to do is we want to go into it. Way back in the day, Buddha said, invite it in for tea. So that's what we want to do. So the first thing is, so just, with your presence, just focus on that energy and focus on that fear and that feeling of I'm not good enough. And you can say it out loud if you want. We'll see what works best for you. Or you can just say it, to this fear inside of you. Say to it, it's okay that you're here.
It's okay.
Yeah. It's okay for you to feel everything that you're feeling.
Yes.
And now breathe into that fear, and everything that we're doing with this fear should allow it to be growing stronger. And we want that. We want the fear to really come up, and we want to feel it so that it can move through us. Because as you've seen, you trying to get away from this fear for your whole life hasn't made it go away. But when we really go all the way through it, this fear can dissipate forever and it can stop being a block. So say to it, we give you all the space that you need to feel everything that you're feeling.
I give you all the space.
Good. Now I want you to sort of just wrap your arms around you.
I can't because I'm holding the
You're holding the
iPad.
phone. Okay. Well, you can just do it. You can do it. I'll sort of do it, sort of as a picture for you. And you can
Okay.
sort of do it in your head. But imagine hugging this. And sometimes it's good to picture this little scared part, this little scared girl that she doesn't feel good enough, as like a little child inside of you. And you can just kind of picture giving her a hug, giving her some physical affection. And what we're looking for is the different ways that she responds, what she responds to. Does she like being given the space to feel what she's feeling? Does she like being touched? Does she not like being touched? But what we're doing,
Yeah, I love being touched.
good. So we're being with this energy, and as you touch her and hold her, does she feel some physical comfort? Does she feel a little bit less afraid of being bad because you're giving her this physical touch?
I think so, although I'm still having all sorts of sensations in my body.
That's
I
okay.
think so.
Allow all of that. That's fine.
Yeah.
So next, what we want to do is with this fear, we just want to picture taking this fear and putting it above us, kind of like on a pedestal. And we want to say to this fear, I'm so grateful that you're here. You're a great teacher for me. You are teaching me and you are changing me. You're showing me a better way to live. And the basic idea here for you and for everybody who's listening is what we want to do is we want to get into the habit of allowing these things that exist inside of us, because as you can see, they don't go away by ignoring them for decades, right? They stay, these things live inside of us.
Yeah.
But when we start to bring attention to them, and I think you'll probably start to notice here as we go on, by touching it, it starts to lessen it. Notice that just because we're walking into this thing that's painful, you still feel connected and grounded, don't you?
I do.
You do, right? So
I do.
there's no real danger by going into this, but what's happening is there's a wounded part of us that we're bringing love and acceptance, and this part hasn't, because of the way that your mom was with you, she didn't really get to be heard. She felt judged all the time. I'm not good enough. And you've had to swallow that and hide it for all this time.
Mhm.
Now, finally, after all these years, there's some space for her, and she gets to feel how she's feeling. And this is incredibly healing. I call this the maximum point of leverage. When we're here, this is God, the universe, whatever you want to call it. We're not doing anything. Notice that. We're not trying to change this feeling. We're not trying to fix it. All we're doing is we're being present. And this is where spiritual alchemy starts to come in. The universe, when something is observed, it changes it. When the universe is exposed to this part that's suffering, what starts to show up is compassion and love. And that's very healing for this part. And as you do this, so what I'd recommend is you touch that beautiful part of you that we touched earlier today. And we're going to bring it back in a second. And that you also touch this part that is hurting. And you bring these together, right? And this starts to lessen the strength of this voice that you've kind of been running from your whole life, this tension that your mom created in you. And we're not blaming her, right? Everybody
No,
has these
no.
messages and all these things that they're
No.
not good enough, right? So one last thing before we start to bring this very positive energy to interact with these two is that little girl, and try to speak from that little girl, growing up with your mom. Does she want to say anything? Does she want to say, anything about her experience. It
Yeah,
might.
what it comes up is, mommy, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay,
I mean,
great.
I'm good. I'm a good person. Not
Yeah,
that I'm good, everything's okay. I'm good. I'm a good being.
that's beautiful. That's wonderful. And is it okay if I talk to her for a second?
The little girl, yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
is it okay? Okay, good.
Yeah.
So I just want you to know that Gail is here and I'm here and we're surrounding you with love. We're with you right now. And I know it's been hard for so long to have to suffer with this alone. Um, but we're all here, including Sarah and everybody watching. There's all this love that we're surrounding you with. And we're not trying to change you. We just want you to know that you don't have to suffer with this alone anymore, that you're loved. And we're going to bring this love in and share it with you. So what I want you to do, Gail, is with your left hand, I just want you to put it on your heart. And that's kind of holding this part in space, or with your right hand, or with your other hand, right? The one that's not holding the phone.
Well, now the right hand's holding it and my left hand is on my heart.
Perfect. Now, and we're just going to hold that in place. And then what I want you to do is that beautiful energy, that beautiful light that we created earlier, I want you to sort of call that back. And I want you to picture it like this beautiful, soft cloth, this luminescent cloth, just filled with all this light and love. And now I want you to start to wrap that energy around this part that feels so scared, that feels like she's not good enough, who's hurting. She's hurting, isn't she? And we're just going to wrap her softly in this cloth, and we're just going to sort of cradle her. And can she feel all that love surrounding her?
I think so. Yeah.
And how does that feel for her? How does she react to seeing all that love and all that light that's in you?
It makes me feel not alone and very
Good.
comforted.
Good. Yeah, good. And so as you do this, and as you bring these two together, and as you touch these each day, this starts to really release blocks, and it allows the energy to flow, and it allows all that beauty of who you are to start to express itself in the world. And what I say to a lot of people is, don't worry about taking any specific actions. Take the actions of freeing up this energy and watch what actions start to happen. And so, because what can happen is we can start to take um, a lot of actions from the ego in the world, right? But when we do this, we start to take these very God-directed actions. Okay, so we're going to stop there. Great job! What a beautiful smile. And I just want to celebrate you for having the courage to do this in front of so many people and to open yourself. Really wonderful job, Gail. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay.
Thank you, Sarah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, how was that for you both? Like, how was it to do that in this context? It seems like you went really deep, Gail, and let yourself really just be with yourself.
I tried. I think I'm going to have to practice. I'm going to watch the rerun of this and practice.
That's a good idea. The people, the clients that I work with, and I'm doing one-on-one coaching, the ones who come back and listen to the recording and then use it as a sort of guided meditation on a consistent basis, because sometimes it can be very hard to get there by yourself. Those are the ones. Those are the ones who sort of move through everything the quickest. So I would recommend that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, while I was watching, I was realizing one of the beauties of doing these processes live is that anyone could listen to this and go within and do that process. It might not be exactly the same issues. They might have a different mother, or whatever, but they could listen to your voice and go within and see what they see.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, Mom, if you're listening, you're a wonderful mother. And
Mom, if you're listening, you actually sort of sucked as a mother, but I love you very much. You were a really charming individual. Evan, how was it for you? It must be a little hard to wrap up so quickly.
Yeah,
Like,
well, my eyes were
like
closed.
totally getting into it, right?
No, it was good. We pretty much got through it. It was good. And with every person that I work with, everybody has blocks and everybody has them in different places in different ways. And so there's always that little bit of a challenge of how do I get to it? How do I navigate it? Right. And I can tell, Gail, that you're a very positive person and that you spend time trying to focus on positivity, which is a beautiful thing. And hopefully we gave you some new tools, a way to do that and do it very deeply, and then, but see, we finally got down to that thing, to find the way to get down to what the block really is. And I feel like we did. So I felt like that was very successful in that way. I'm glad we got to see, because, and it's great because it proves that one point, which it's like most of these things almost exclusively are these childhood things that have just been with us for so long. And it's like, we can all let go of that stuff, and sometimes we have to do it piece by piece.
Sarah, they don't teach that in law school, do they?
No, they don't teach it in law school.
No.
Yes, right.
They don't even, I'm not sure they even taught it in my ministerial school. But I did eventually teach it to myself and also have so many other teachers. Yes. Who are some of your teachers, Evan?
Yeah, that's a good question. I did my original favorite teacher is a guy named Anthony DeMello, who died in 1987. He was this wonderful speaker. He just had this incredible light and playfulness. And then I did a lot of work in the Eckhart Tolle sort of model. That's where I really started to listen and pay attention to my thoughts. And then I did a lot of Byron Katie work, and of course, the 12 steps. And then, I've studied just piecemeal lots of different things, across the thing that just kind of added up. But I will say the greatest lessons I've learned, this is going to sound weird or cocky, the greatest lessons I've learned have actually come from my own spirit and soul. And all those other teachers helped me to sort of open up to that inside of me, which continues to teach me more.
Yeah, that's very helpful. Yeah.
Well, then, Evan, you may be one of the many people who will not need to read my book that I'm in negotiation with the publisher on the contract for, called How to Know What You Know, and a handbook for making up your mind. It's tools for connecting with your own inner knowing. But you could come on and tell me more about your own inner knowing some other time. Let's Sunny, let's wrap up this show officially, and then we'll stay on just a little bit more after that. Yes, thank you, Sunny. I am teaching this class all year long, once a month. Healer, Heal Thyself. Chances are, if you're watching this show or listening, you are a healer. You might just be healing yourself. You might have patients or clients. You might have children or parents or others that you're trying to heal, whether they want you to or not. How about you heal yourself and come in here and play with me? We're going to be working with two texts, Catherine Ponder's Dynamic Laws of Healing, and Dr. Dane here from Access Consciousness, the Body Whisperer. And it's going to be a lot about using spiritual tools for body wellness. So do that. And you can go to the Center for Spiritual Awareness in Sacramento website to register. All right, let's say goodbye officially through our outros, and then we can stay on and talk just a tiny bit.
Thanks to our guest, to host Sarah Stevens Nichols, and to the New Thought Media Network. I'm Sunny Childs, producer of The Conscious Reality Show. Join us live next Wednesday at 9 a.m. or stream the show at your convenience. Subscribe to Conscious Reality Show YouTube channel so you never miss a show. If you'd like to learn more about us, check out www.sarahstevensnichols.com.
All right, here we are. Any comments on the show, or like any other people you think I should have on? We're still live, just so you know.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm sure just about anybody in my church in Florida, all past to God, based on New Thought. Sue Meixner and Denise Madigan are the ministers, co-minister, and there are lots of others who are trained extensively in this New Thought and are very wise people. They've been on a journey, like from ashrams to now, you know.
I have somebody in mind. She doesn't sort of do any kind of one-on-one coaching per se, but she's done a lot of work in hospice and also childbirth. You know, she's an author. She's written several books. She's a Chinese medicine person, so I think she'd be a really fascinating person for you to have on.
Yeah, send me your name. That'd be great.
I will. I'll check and see if she wants to first.
Yeah,
but
interested.
I think she'd be great.
Sometimes I'm the one doing the sessions, and that might happen next week.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I am looking for another person. I have done one other live session on this show before returning to my original vision of having the guests and/or me doing the sessions today.
Yeah, well, that was interesting because I was looking forward to the ease of just sort of being interviewed or asking me questions, and I could just answer off the cuff. And to do a session, it was like, okay, I mean, clearly it's like that. Yeah, exactly. It's like sort of stakes on the line. Yeah, and you're on, and it's like okay, well, just to sort of, I'm rereading one of my favorite books, which is the Surrender Experiment, and that's sort of. One. Oh, you don't?
No.
It's a really cool book. And just sort of say, it's like kind of saying yes to whatever, life brings you, so to speak. And so that was a great opportunity to just be like, yeah, for sure. Why not?
The Surrender Experience.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
It's kind of like the year of saying yes or whatever that is, right? I'm in, and I bet you are too, Evan, in a kind of a lifelong, one day at a time surrender experiment. When I have phone calls with people, we often say, are we willing to turn our will and our life over for the next 24 hours as an experiment? Because somehow, if I think of it as an experiment, I'm more likely to do it.
I think that's a great idea.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I've pretty much, this last time, it was about 5 years ago where I had been so success driven and where that kind of collapsed. And I call that sort of event in my life, the death of ambition. And that's, and I sort of, I had never left the steps, but I sort of came back and I worked them in a very different way. And I really took seriously, the 12 and 12 and what it says. It's like, if you live this as a way of life. And so the first principle of the 12 steps is this surrender, this defeat. And so it's like, it's sort of, I've just kind of taken on as a way of life to be in this constant state of defeat, this constant state of sort of a bottom with all these different parts of the ego that emerge. It's like, can I surrender to this? Can I surrender to that? So yeah, that aspect of kind of letting go to because eventually we're all going to die. So we're going to have to let go of everything at some point.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Well, this is what I hear. I know it's a rumor.
Tell us.
It might be a nasty rumor. So we're going to have to surrender everything at some point. And I'm just kind of into like, let me just surrender it all now. And I can just, enjoy
Go
the
ahead and
last
do it.
30, 40 years.
Well, yeah. And I'm surrender. There was a long period of time where I actually surrendered to not doing things publicly and, really laying low, at least for me. and then there was a point where I was just being directed to surrender to doing things more publicly. And it brings up fear for me because partly for some of the reasons you said, Gail, like just, I don't want to be ego driven. I don't want it to be the wrong reasons. I don't want it to be about success in a conventional sense or checking various boxes. I want it to be God driven and spirit driven and come from what else is
I think
possible.
it would be useful for me to tell you where I am in my life in terms of I'm at an age where I don't think I'm ambition driven at all. And I'm one of the oldest baby boomers. I'm the beginning of the baby boomer emergence, and we are going to take over the world.
I'm the end. Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm the end of the baby boomers, so I thank you. I thank you, older boomers, for paving the way for me. I'm sure made things a lot easier.
I hope so.
Although these days, who knows? Well,
I think the powers to be are not baby boomers. No.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't mean that, but anyway, I mean that a lot of the advances the baby boomers have paved for me may or may not stick around. All right, well, we should probably say goodbye to the live audience anyway. Thank you very much for tuning in, everybody, and come see us next week and see who I interview, or see who someone else interviews or does a session with, really. And
thank you, everybody. Well, thank you, Sarah.
And tell everyone else about it too.
All right.
Thank you, Sunny.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Appreciate it. And thank you.